Live visuals there as we await the cortege bringing the body to the Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi Regional Stadium. AmaZulu traditional Prime Minister Nduna Nkulu, the great Nduna of the Zulus, appointed in 1954, appointed by King Cyprian Bekuzulu. And we've seen a number of hats that he has worn, Bongiwe. That of the link between the king and the people, but also in the political sphere as well.
And Blaine, of course, this is a man known to many South Africans as Usheg, as the founder of the IFP. But you also think about, one other aspect of his life, and that has been husband to Princess Irene Mzila, who he married in 1952. And theirs is one of those love stories that a lot of people talk about. And I remember even his children at some point talking about how our father used to bring flowers for our mother every week, and she loved that so much, and she always smiled. And it talks about this particular love story that spans over decades, as we talk about the many faces of this particular man.
Something, as you speak, Bongi, something's jumped out, and a quote that was found actually by our research department. Prince Buthelezi talking about Princess Irene at a funeral service in Ulundi, and I just want to read what he said. It's such a touching quote. He says, and I quote, "How do I say farewell to the love of my life? No man could have asked for a better wife. How then do I say farewell? The only way I can, believing not only that this is our last goodbye, but that there will be another hello spoken in the presence of our Lord. The day will surely heal the wounds that has felled me now."
Yeah.
How touching is that? And
very touching. And Blaine, someone else who is saying farewell right now as we sit with him is Ubabu Blessed Kwala, who is the IFP's national chairperson. And Bab Kwala, thank you so much for speaking to us. You're looking at what is happening right now. How do you say goodbye?
My sister, no one except God who ever knew that this day, the 16th of September, will be such a huge funeral for Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, who has been in the field of leadership for more than 70 years.
We've seen a number of dignitaries here already. We understand that EFF leader Julius Malema is here, the former president Jacob Zuma as well. So all of those people here today, together with the thousands that you've seen on your screen. We understand that the stadium can take about 20,000, but we're expecting more. There's overflow areas, etc. Mr. Kwala, with regards to the history of your party, and to a great extent, it is interlaced with Prince Buthelezi's story. What is the next chapter now? How do you see the party moving on without him there?
No, while we are affected by his passing, but we are hopeful that the leadership that he has actually groomed, particularly from the IFP, will take this work which he has done over decades forward. The leadership he has built under the leadership of Velenkosini Khabisa, I think, is the best leadership for now that can take the party forward. And you know that Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi was not only leading the IFP, but he was also the Prime Minister of the Zulu nation. So it means that both these horns need to work together, one from the leadership of the IFP and also from the leadership of the Zulu nation, so that they can take it forward. I know that the leadership of the Zulu nation rests with KwaZulu-Natal. but the leadership of the IFP is for the country at large.
And I wonder then, as you have then these particular conversations going forward about what becomes the IFP, how the IFP begins to chart a way forward without him. As the leadership, and I'm going to ask you personally, let's talk about some of the memories that you have of him and interactions that people would not have seen in the public domain.
No, in fact, he has actually fought many battles. I can, think about legal issues. All matters that goes to court, he wins them. He won them, actually. You come to the IFP, then you'll understand that there are too many players in the field. So there was a lot of frustrations that he received, particularly not from the opposition, but from the government itself. He served in the government of national unity, and he was a minister of Home Affairs, but he was frustrated. But today, everybody now is talking about people who are not authorized to be inside the country. But that was the reason why he was chased away, because he was accused of not accepting those people who are coming inside the country. So that is those as the things that you can. But there are many have been to mention.
How do you think his role changed post 1994? I mean, he's been described as the elder statesman in Parliament, in Parliament, seen as the voice of reason when parliamentarians are bickering inside, are fighting. How would you describe his role being changed post 94?
No, indeed, he is a man of humanity. He can actually, even at home, because it is not the IFP that actually made me to work with him. There are blood relations between us. So 1975 was just an addition to what I know him as he was a prince, was a Nkosi of the Buthelezi clan, but all what he has done in the past, not a single one, a single item that I can say here, then he didn't, playing it correctly. He used to play his cards very well.
And of course, we are still coming to you live from the Prince Mangosuthu Regional Stadium. And this, of course, is as dignitaries are arriving, Blaine, and I do understand spotted a little earlier on was DA leader John Steenhuisen. There's also the EFF leader Julius Malema here as well. And that speaks to the unity that has been spoken about over time in Parliament. But Babkwala, there's something I want to understand, especially where the IFP is concerned. There is that multi-party charter, which we also saw the Youth Brigade coming out very much against that particular issue. At some point, Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi was talking about that reconciliation with the ANC. But the charter is saying keep the ANC out at all costs and the EFF. How do you reconcile the two as you talk about his legacy and now being part of a charter that talks about something that a party he wanted to reconcile with?
No, I can only say that when there are too many cooks, then sometimes the other hand cannot understand what the other was doing. So what the Youth Brigade was saying or doing, actually it was just a matter of a misunderstanding. That's why when the party had a discussion with the youth, no one was charged, because they did not understand something of which the leadership understood it well. So I think the problem was just a communication issue rather than a division.
We had Villain Kosini Tlabisa on this program the other day, and I put to him with regards to the wish of Prince Buthelezi in terms of this reconciliation with the ANC. And Mr. Hlabisa said there was no progress that was made with regards to that, but he's committed the leadership of the IFP to pursue the reconciliation agenda. But the reconciliation agenda doesn't mean a joining of forces with the ANC, rather healing of the wounds. Is that how you understand it?
Yes. Yes, I think that there is also a misinterpretation of reconciliation. The IFP is talking of reconciliation, that the IFP and the ANC must put the past behind us. But some from the ANC, they are talking of the merger. That is two different, things to debate about, of which the IFP is not against if they put it on the table and discuss it. The only challenge that we used to encounter as the IFP is that when these matters are discussed, then it goes to the media, and then so it becomes an issue that is debated by the media rather than debated by the two parties. I think that's where the problem, begins. I know that there is a stack of documents that has been sent by the late Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi to the president of the ANC and the president of the country. So all what we are waiting now is for a response. Very unfortunate. Very unfortunate. Excuse?
Are you able to share what's in the document?
No, I cannot share it because, as I have indicated, that we do not in the IFP. It is in nature. If we send documents to the head of state, so I cannot disclose it unless the head of state decide to disclose it, those documents. So very unfortunate that when these documents went to the president and we are waiting, and somebody from the ANC in the province and now begins to say we are visiting the Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi and we want to talk about the reconciliation. Then we said, whoa, wait a bit, because the matter now is in the hands of the head of state and also the president of the ANC. Let's wait for the president of the ANC to say something before we even entertain what we are doing. But indeed, I have been approached by the provincial chairperson of the ANC, MEC Duma, discussing about the same issue. And then I took everything that he was said to Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. Then once those things are ironed out, then we'll be able to allow the president of the country, who is the president of the ANC, and President Hlabisa, to attend to the issue.
And, I'm sure you can see these particular visuals. Let's talk about Wena Bakwana. What's going through your mind right now? What's going through your mind is... what's going through your mind as you are seeing these visuals? He's coming to the stadium. Since his passing, let's talk about what's going through your mind right now as Babkwal.
When I spoke at the memorial service, I indicated that I will miss his midnight call because, the life which I have experienced over years is that I do not close my cell phone before I receive a call from him, because I know there will be something that he wants to discuss with me, what is going to happen. So I will miss that call. But I have never, ever, as I said earlier with this interview, that on this day it will be a funeral for Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. It has never clicked in my mind, and even now I don't believe it.
When was the last time you got that call?
It was just before he went to the hospital. In fact, I had a dinner with him, I think it was 2 days before he was taken to hospital. I was with him at home and we discussed many things, but I didn't know that he was saying to me goodbye.
Yeah.
And we know him also to be a man of humor. Sometimes in Parliament we'll see those moments.
Yes.
And I wonder if for you have some.
No, there are too many because, we share, but sometimes then you can just say, I don't want this thing to happen. Then it's your father, and then you take it as it is. I always say, when I joke with my colleagues, that as national chairperson, when we chair meetings like National Council, I sit next to him. So I just get a number of hits just from a hammer, but I was able, to take it as if that happened, because I don't want to frustrate the people that are bleeding. But I get a number of hits. But to me, I will just laugh at that. I said, hey, my head is not.
He had a real zest for life, didn't he? And a willingness to live on. And we had also Princess Phumzile the other day on the program talking about his 95th birthday, when they took cake to hospital and they brought it towards him, and he raised his hand and he just says, thank you, God.
Yes.
He was anxious to leave hospital and get on with business. And she was telling us that he was reading messages on the iPad, and also on another breath planning the funeral as well. He was speaking about the hymns that needs to be sung here. He was speaking about the verses that needs to be read. So he kind of maybe foresaw something, but people weren't ready to let him go. Is that your experience?
No, I remember that at one point, because you always, when you have to discuss issues, as we have said, that was a humble man.
Yeah.
But when you go there, you must expect two things. It's either you check whether the weather is right or not, and then when the weather is right, and then you take some advantages and ask questions, so that you benefit a lot from him. I remember that at some stage when he talked about death, it take as if death is nothing. So I asked him, why you take it so simple? Then he just responded to me by saying, you can dodge many things on earth except death. So that's why he was so, he is expecting at any time. So I hope that the number of people that are gathered here, it will take some years or decades to have a similar kind of funeral with a multitude of people who are attending.
And Bakwala, there's a lot, of course, that comes into being. And as we are talking, Blaine Amabuto, we're seeing quite a number of people. It's a nice point where we are, because we get to see everybody come in. This is where they all come through, and you can see for them, this is their moment of how they pay homage to him. But Bakwala, which then brings us back to this conversation, that there's still a lot that is being said about his legacy. And we had this conversation with the CEO of the foundation earlier on to say the many people who are still talking, there are many who are talking about him being good, his contribution, his leadership, but there are others who are saying, do not forget the painful past, and still looking at the black on black violence, for example. A lot of it, they're placing the blame on him, and I wonder how the IFP is beginning to have these conversations and receiving some of what is being said around his legacy.
No, I agree with what you are saying at the level of the media. But the issue of violence and black on black violence, we still stand by the fact that it was not manufactured by the IFP. Then we need some time so that we can tell the world, even if he has departed, so that his legacy remain, is that we need to discuss it if there is a need be. The only challenge that we are faced with is that people take as if the IFP was the one who was to blame for violence, and the people of the IFP who were killed committed suicide. You know, UTF was the one who actually killed the IFP people. And if I invade your house, you can't fold your arms and wait for the police to come. You will defend yourself. The IFP was defending themselves from the people who went to the east and trained for war. They called it's a people's war before they even arrived in the country.
You know, I just wonder how we can get to better. I grew up in the 80s and 90s, remember the stories, and we've heard the stories reiterated over the past week or so since the death of Prince Buthelezi. How do we process the complex legacy? And let's be clear, for some it's complex, for others clear-cut, whereby they say, I mean, he was a man of the people, he did good for the communities, etc. But some, it's complicated for a lot of others. I wonder, how do we get to a better place where we can heal wounds moving forward?
No, I think if we want to heal the wounds, it's a simple thing. Firstly is that the ANC is in charge of the country. But the ANC can't tell you that the IFP refused to come to the negotiating table, because we are ready to be called. That is the only thing that I can actually say right now, that the IFP over years, we have been waiting for the ANC to call us on the table so that we are able to talk about this thing, so that we can put it behind ourselves. But if it continues like this, because sometime the ANC come at the 11th hour, when we are going towards the election, you can't discuss issues of reconciliation, issues of peace while you are going to the election. We need to discuss this issue when the task for elections are actually settled.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Kwala, for that, and giving us your own reflections. And do, of course, stay tuned to the SABC, as we're going to be bringing you more of these particular conversations. And spotted a little earlier on is Inkosi Pategile Olomisa. There's been a number of dignitaries that have arrived, Glenn.
It is indeed a special official funeral, Category 1.